When it comes to the Nervos network, more specifically, I do want to talk about three different hypothetical price scenarios that I have on my mind when it comes to CKB. And this is even assuming, let's say, there's an altcoin season during this cycle, but you know what? Only time will tell. And again, even though nothing I say is financial advice, I first want to explore the idea of maybe 3 cents. Now, that's nearly 9x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it would be nearly 1.5 billion. Now, the reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because I do like the fundamentals of Nervos, and let me explain what I mean by that. More specifically, again, if we take a look at Nervos, the foundation of it is something called CKB. Now, this stands for Common Knowledge Base. But then it gets a little bit more exciting, in my opinion, because, it's even been alleged that CKB is the most flexible and interoperable blockchain. Now, I think this is something I do want to discuss further because when it comes to that word, again, interoperable, and more specifically, if I take a look at interoperability, why do I think that is something that is pretty crucial? It's because the way I view it is this. There's many networks out there, many blockchains, right? But then because a lot of them I see are independent of one another, they cannot in some cases freely send data and value to each other, which as a result, if that is the case, arguably they do lack interoperability. So then having interoperability, right, I think is crucial, especially for the growth of this space and also for the growth of projects moving forward. So I do like what I'm seeing here to a certain extent. And if I take a look at it, right, CKB, it's supposedly, or should I say allegedly, the first fully Bitcoin isomorphic layer 2 solution. Now, if I take a look at what is kind of the purpose of something like this, right? The purpose of something like this is to enhance Bitcoin by adding programmability and scalability. So that's pretty awesome in my perspective. Now, as a result of this does aim to foster a thriving Bitcoin ecosystem. So I do like it. Now, some people may argue, okay, Bitcoin is already massive. Does it really need to be thrived in a sense further? Does it need to really improve? Well, I think why not, right? I mean, sure, Bitcoin's already massive as of right now, but if it could be even bigger moving forward and there's, let's say, better adoption, I don't see why that would be such a bad thing. However, what I like about Nervos more specifically is that I think in a sense, this kind of does allow it to piggyback, off of the success of Bitcoin to a certain extent, because we just take a look at kind of the vibe surrounding it overall. I don't think it's such a bad thing. People sometimes like to tell me, oh, no one cares about this project and all this type of stuff. Well, you know what? Sure, CKB has a market cap right now that is below 200 million. I mean, it's by no means the biggest project out there, but it's pretty decent. And there has been, pretty big pullback when it comes to the price. It's not looking that good, right, in the grand scheme of things. But then at the same time, it's still not bad. It's still a pretty decently sized project. I still like its exposure. And not to mention, we have to consider, the Bitcoin ETF, right? And we kind of combine that with, again, Nervos's kind of, vibes of Bitcoin overall when it comes to it. I just find it pretty cool and pretty interesting. When it comes to CKB, it supposedly leverages the proof of work consensus algorithm, which this is something else that I'm very excited for because if we take a look at proof of work, what is it usually kind of viewed as, right? Because, proof of stake, it's kind of more well known, right? A lot of projects do use that. But when it comes to proof of work, I think this right here is very special because if we take a look at Bitcoin, it's proof of work. And what have we seen from that specifically over, the course of years, right? We've seen the reliability and we've seen kind of the security. So proof of work, oftentimes, a lot of my friends, they often kind of associate it with, security and, amazing reliability. So when I take a look at, again, something like CKB leveraging the proof of work consensus algorithm, that is pretty interesting because, again, we do see an aspect of, proof of work when it comes to Bitcoin. Now, I don't only just hold CKB, by the way, but it is something that I do want to hold as part of my portfolio because I like its fundamentals. I like how, again, it's kind of having that Bitcoin vibe to it. And also on top of that as well, market cap currently right now, it's below 200 million. Some people may think, why would you care about that? Well, I don't mind because the market cap isn't too massive, but then it's not too small either. So it kind of fits what I'm looking for. And yeah, if CKB maybe hypothetically went to the price of 3 cents during an altcoin season, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Now, the second price scenario I do want to talk about, or should I say discuss, is the idea of maybe 4 cents. Now, 4 cents is nearly a 12x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it'd be nearly 1.9 billion. Now, when I take a look at this market cap, it just doesn't seem like too ridiculous to me because, again, I take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, I take a look at kind of just the popularity surrounding Bitcoin overall. And also in my previous section of this video, I did talk about, kind of Nervos's somewhat relationship when it comes to Bitcoin. So overall, I think those are pretty key factors in an event where, let's say, there is an altcoin season during this cycle. And also this market cap right here, it just doesn't seem like too ridiculous to me. Like if I take a look at something like Shiba Inu, which reached around $40 billion in market cap back in 2021, and I saw Dogecoin that year reach over 80 billion, just this market cap doesn't seem that ridiculous. In the grand scheme of things, I don't feel like this market cap is just too massive, right? If let's say it needed like a market cap of like 60, 70 billion to go to the price of 4 cents, that's not even something I would even want to think about. But then just this right here, even though only time will tell, it just wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Now, when I take a look at the idea of 5 cents, that right there is the third hypothetical price scenario I do want to explore, and that is nearly a 15x from here. Market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, around 2.3 billion. Now, what I like during this cycle, when compared to actually back in 2021, is that not only is kind of the vibe overall when it comes to the Bitcoin ETF and the Ethereum ETF, I think, pretty amazing. But then, also on top of that, currently there's over 600 million crypto owners supposedly, and that is allegedly more than ever before in history. And if we take a look at back in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million crypto owners. So right now, there's way more, basically, and sure, we haven't seen an altcoin season, I think, arguably like back then, but if we did see one, it wouldn't surprise me if it looked better than back then, right? This is just my point of view. Now, sometimes people like to tell me, okay, when it comes to the timeline, what is it? When is this going to happen or that? That is completely out of my control. Like, I have no control over the markets or whatever, project does. That's beyond my control. Like, the only thing I can control is myself. So personally, whenever there is even an altcoin season during this cycle, if it ever even were to happen, there's one thing I can do, and that is stay patient by just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. So then in a moment in time in which something does something, quite essentially, maybe it's kind of like going along with the ride. That's the way to take a look at it. Now, at least I can take a look back in history. It doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same this time around, by the way, but it is just something what I realized historically speaking. Typically altcoins, as a worst case scenario, again, historically speaking, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, if we consider how the last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of 2024, 18 months from then is actually October this year. Granted, we're in October right now, and, an altcoin season hasn't felt like it started, right? Which, that is just based off history, right? Who knows? It may happen later. Maybe it waits until March of even 2026. Who knows? Somewhere along there. But whatever that timeline is, again, I'm just going to stay patient and just hold and just wait. And that's pretty much about it. And I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.